What's good, fam? It's your boy Ghetto. We back with another video, and I recently got some questions about the MPC Live 3 and Ableton Live Control in terms of what all can you do with it. Can you control instruments? Can you control Ableton drum tracks? Things like that. And the truth is you can control pretty much everything. Some things are a little, but for the most part, you can do a lot of stuff with it. So I'm gonna go over that in this video. Follow me. All right, so I do have a bit of an older video explaining how to set up Ableton Live Control mode with Ableton. I will link that video here because I don't think I'm going to go over all of the setup in order to do it in the background. I'll go over some of it, but not everything. So if you want to see everything, it's pretty much still the same. Just go check out that other video. All right, so we have Ableton opened up, and I have two instruments opened up in Ableton. One of them is a brass sound, and I'm playing it with this MIDI controller right here. And the other sound that we have is a .808 drum track, drum program, whatever you want to call it. So drums and percussions and claps and things like that. So we have both of those tracks opened up in Ableton. Now we are going to use the MPC to control all of this stuff in Ableton Live Control mode. The first thing you want to do that's going to make it easier on you and a little less difficult to figure out is go down here in Ableton to this little red enable button, because you have to click that to enable the track. Otherwise, even if you select a track, that other track won't play. So you want to click that in order to enable it. So we're going to right click that, and where it says ARM exclusive, we're going to click that, and that turns it off, which allows you to select multiple tracks if you want to, with different controllers. So you don't have to actually click into Ableton to change that. And I'll show you that later, because we can do that with MPC Live Control. Now, the next thing we want to do is open up the Akai Network MIDI application. So we're going to open that up real quick. Okay, now that we have the Akai Network MIDI opened up, you want to make sure that your device is selected. Right now it says MPC Live 3. You click this drop down if you have multiple units. I have the MPC Kit 61 connected right now and the Live 3. I do have other ones, but they're disconnected. So you just want to make sure you have the correct one selected. Now you can also click add device right here and then add it in manually, but most cases that's not necessary. You don't have to do anything else. You do not want to close this out. You want to keep that open, because if you close it, it will disconnect the connection. Now that we have that connected, we are going to go in our MPC. This is an empty project. Nothing is loaded. There's no tracks in here other than the default drum program that you get when you first start it up. So here we are going to go into our menu. We're going to go to the second tab, and we're going to type Ableton Live Control. Now that we are in Ableton Live Control, it automatically loads up the session that we have in Ableton. So here you can see both of them. So right now the drum track is highlighted. So if I tap on the brass kind of track, it will switch over to that. So you can kind of see me switching back and forth, just tapping the screen. So we know we have two separate instruments in Ableton. We want to be able to utilize both of those however we want, or more if we have more. So we're going to go to this second icon right here, and we're going to tap that. And this gives us our mixer. And from there, we want to go to the middle selection, which is main. So let's hit that. I know the screen is hard to read, so bear with me. Now that we are in main, this is where you can activate your tracks. So right now, the drum track is activated. So if we hit the record button on the other track, the other track is activated. Also, you can use this to select multiple tracks. And now you can see the audio tracks reacting to my voice. Let me turn those back off. So we only have activated the 2 drum tracks. That is also reflected in Ableton right here. You can see that both tracks are activated. Let me turn one off. You should see the corresponding track turn off in Ableton. Turn the other one off. Now they're both off. Turn those back on. Now that we have those tracks enabled to be able to be recorded into or played from, now let's go to the main screen on the MPC. So now we want to set up this to be able to play those instruments. So the first thing we're going to do is hold down that icon right there so we can now change the track to a different track type. So I'm going to change it to a MIDI track. So now we have our MIDI track loaded. We're going to go to our MIDI output port and set that to remote so that it will send the signal into Ableton. Now, right now it's on port 1. Now you're hearing both instruments playing at the same time. You hear the drums and you hear the brass. That's not necessarily what we want, but we're getting there. So now we're going to go to a new track and we're going to create another MIDI track. We're also going to set that to remote. Now we're going to set our output port on the second track to 2. And then we can go back to the first track and make sure the first track is only set to 1. And now port 2 shouldn't play anything. Now let's go into Ableton. And in Ableton, we are going to go to our channel. So the brass instrument, we're going to keep that on channel 1, and we're going to take the drum track instrument and switch that to channel 2. Okay, so now if we go in our MPC, we go to MIDI track 1. We have our brass sound. We go to channel 2. Now we can play our drums on channel 2. Now, one of the things that you do also have to remember is for the majority of these instruments to work correctly, especially the drum tracks, not so much the instrument tracks, but the drum tracks specifically, you have to go into your pad perform and make sure the scale is set to C chromatic and also on the octave of C1. If it's not on C1, so I'll switch it to a different octave. It's on C3 now. You're not getting any sounds. C2, you only get some of the sounds. So you want to make sure that it's on C1. And now you have all of your drum sounds from Ableton playing exactly as they do on Ableton. So if I go over here and select the kit, you can see I'm hitting pad 1, and that corresponds to this bass drum right here. Pad 2 is the rim shot, pad 3 snare, pad 4 clap. So all of the pads go to the correct pad in Ableton as long as you have it on C chromatic and have it on octave C1. Now with the instrument sounds, you can use those as you normally would with pad perform and play whatever scale you want. So that's how you set up Ableton to be able to play your sounds from your different tracks directly from the MPC inside of Ableton. Along with that, you can also go inside of here and change the parameters of everything. So now we're going to go back into Ableton Live Control, and we're going to go to the bottom tab. So right now we are in that brass instrument. It says we have alpha log brass selected, and we can slide these parameters around. As you can see, you can change everything directly from the MPC. I'm just randomly changing it so you can see what's going on, but you could change pretty much all of the parameters and do whatever you want with it. Now, if we wanted to do that to the 808, we can go into the 808 and do the same thing. You can see the controls of the 808 changing as I'm sliding around on the MPC, adjusting the parameters. You can also use the Q links to control a lot of this stuff, including the sends, effects returns, and all of that. You just have to make sure you have the correct thing selected, and you can definitely do that. So right here, we are in the sends. So these are the main sends in Ableton. Turning it up and back down. You can also use the Q links to change these. So as you can see, you can still do a lot of stuff inside of Ableton directly from the MPC without even having to actually touch Ableton on the screen. All right, so that's all I got for this video. Hopefully it helps some of y'all if y'all want to mess around with some of this stuff. I think it's pretty cool. One thing you will want to note though is that this is called Ableton Live Control, but it does work in other DAWs as well, as long as you set it up correctly. I've done this with Logic, I've done it with Cubase, and a few other DAWs that it did work in. So you can use this in other DAWs other than just Ableton. Keep that in mind. It doesn't work 100% in all of these other DAWs, but some of these features do actually work. So that's all I got for this video. If you got any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. I'm out.